Today, we're going to switch out those factory comfort seats into the sporty version. These are the Audi Wingback seats that came from an Audi A3. Let's get started. So here is the underside of the driver's seat. As you can see, there's a bunch of stuff going on, such as the electric motor over here, heater wiring, as well as the seatbelt latch. Let's go and take a look at the wiring harness. There is a 1, 2, 3, 4. There are 4 connectors. This is for the seatbelt latch. This is for the heater control. This is the red's for power, and this yellow is for airbag. Now let's compare the Audi R8 comfort seats against these Audi S3 wingback seats, which are basically Recaro Sportster seats that have been reskinned and wired up to fit in an Audi. And here's the wiring harness for the S3 seats. This one controls the heater. This one is this is a airbag canceller too. This actually came with a stock airbag canceller for the sides because in Europe, and by the way, these seats came from Europe, they had no side airbags. So this was used to add a resistance and cancel out that annoying airbag light that you see whenever you install aftermarket seats in your North American, Volkswagen, and Audi cars. And this here is the connector for the seatbelt latch. So we need to wire this up into the Audi R8 connector so we will not get a seatbelt light in the dashboard. So overall, that is what you really need to know in order to be able to install these factory bucket seats. The mounting plates are basically the same. The width is the same. And the stubs, as well as all of these other brackets that you see here, are practically the same across most Audi cars in this 2008 to 2015 generation. However, as you can see, the wiring connectors, as well as the wiring itself, is drastically different. So we're going to need to do some wiring, and I'm going to show you how to make your own adapter harness. So this will actually look pretty factory, and you won't have to splice or tap into any of these wires. And furthermore, creating an adapter harness will allow you to quickly revert this seat back to stock, allowing you to quickly sell these seats in North America. So any person who has an Audi R8, an Audi S3, Audi A3, and any of the other Audi and perhaps Volkswagen cars in this 2008 to 2015 generation will be able to use these seats themselves. So let's focus on the wiring for the driver's side seat because that's the more simpler one. This is the cable for the seatbelt latch. This connects to the seatbelt latch here, and you have this connector here. This connector will plug straight into the Audi S3 or A3. Now, obviously, this won't work, so we need to create our own wiring adapter, which is here. This is the connector for the seatbelt latch. Pin number 6 will go to pin number 2 here. It goes all the way down, the seatbelt latches, and the current is completed. The current goes all the way down to pin 1, and then pin 1 here will then go to pin number 5 here for ground. Now, if you're trying to build this yourself, don't worry, I will have a write-up that will include all the various part numbers, the connector numbers, as well as the terminal pins, the actual terminal pins that you need to get in order to be able to create your own. If you don't want to do that, you can find pigtails on eBay or whatnot that has all of the wires connected to this connector here. Now, moving on to the airbag canceller. So these bucket seats do not have side airbags. So we need to wire up some sort of resistor to the connector to trick the airbag control module that there is indeed an airbag installed on the side of the seat. Now, I've looked at the part number for the airbag canceller that came with the wingbacks, and they are a different part number, and they are actually a little bit thicker. So this is the proper part for the Audi R8 connector. It's a different connector number. The one that came with the bucket seats is a different part number, and it's a little bit thicker here. So what I've done is I've just wired up my own airbag canceller with the appropriate resistance, and I'm just gonna plug this in, and then we'll be all set. So we won't have an airbag light that will constantly nag at us. Now let's look at the heater connector. So this block here is the connector for the heater sensor, as well as the actual heating pads for the Audi Wingback factory seats. Obviously, this is the connector that you need to connect to in order to be able to control the heating on your HVAC unit. So what I've done is I've gone and hooked up 4 wires. 2 of them belong to the temperature heating sensor, or the thermistor, because the resistance will change based on the temperature that the sensor picks up. So current flows from pin 2 to pin 2 here, and then we have ground that returns the current up to pin 1 here. So green goes to pin 2. That's the start of the current. And then the current will then flow to a ground on pin 1. So the other 2 wires is red and black wire. Red obviously is the power. So the power for the heating pads flows from pin 4 all the way to pin 3. And the current flows through the heating pads in the seat, and then this will then be ground for the heating pads, which will then flow from pin 5 here to pin 3. Again, I will write a more detailed write-up, including all the part numbers that you need in order to be able to hook all these up appropriately, in order to be able to create a nice, clean adapter harness. And there we have it. Those are all of the connectors that you need to wire up to create your own wiring adapter. This is the seat belt, this is the airbag canceller, and this is the heater controls. These seats are manual seats, so we don't need to wire up any power, but it's the same thing if you were to happen to have aftermarket seats that have some sort of motor in it and you need power. You would then need to wire up the red connector that I will put on the screen here, and then you would need to then wire up the power and ground. And here's what the car looks like without the seats installed. You can see here there are these connectors here. Again, seat belt, heater, power, airbag. The process is pretty straightforward. There are 4 bolts that you need to remove here. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remove them, and then sort of just kind of jiggle and juggle the old seat out. Be careful, it's a little heavy. From there, we just go and install the new seats and then wire everything up appropriately. Now, if you were like me, I was lazy and I did not bother to remove the battery before I disengaged the airbag connector here. So if you do that, there will be a code that will be stored inside the airbag control module. So if you do this, just make sure to get your OBD2 reader and clear that airbag code once you go in and hook up the airbag canceller here. And here is the adapter wiring harness installed on the RA car. We just now need to put the seat in and bolt it down, and then clear out all the codes, and we should be good for the driver's side. All right, so I installed everything. It looks amazing, by the way. Look at these seats. However, I have one error code, and it is related to the seatbelt tensioner. This seatbelt tensioner on the Audi A3, it's not returning either the right voltage or current that the computer is expecting, so I'm getting an error code. At first I thought maybe I repinned the 2 pins. I switched the pins, I'm still getting the code, so I need to take this off in order to take off this seatbelt and then replace it with my seatbelt latch that came with the original seats. Hopefully that should be the end of it, and that should get rid of that error code. So here are both of the seatbelt latches. The one up top is for the Audi S3 car, and the one below came off my Audi RA car. You can see the length is different, and within here there is some sort of resistance that the Audi RA computer is trying to read, and this is not giving the right signal. So I'm going to swap this out, So both of these latches are being held on by this 8mm triple spline bolts. Make sure to clean off the old thread locker here and then install new blue thread locker and torque this down to 34 Newton meters. And here's a pro tip. Make sure you have a triple spline that is this long. You can't have a small stubby one, or else the ratchet that you're gonna be using will not fit. It's not long enough. So make sure to get something of this length. Make sure it's long and skinny, and then you'll be able to remove and reinstall this nut here that tightens the seatbelt latch. Yay! Factory wingbacks have been installed. I took a seat in it and it is just transformative. That's the best way I could describe it. I have so much more support. Let me zoom out a little bit. And it just hugs me way better. It just fits the car way better because now I'll be able to take tighter corners and not have to worry about sliding left and right in the car if I take a spirited drive or when I eventually truck this car. As you can see here, the passenger seats are still intact. I have not been able to install the passenger side because, well, this will take a lot more work because I have to take off the passenger pressure sensor in this seat and install it in the other seat so I won't get any airbag codes, etc., etc. That's the thing that we have to do here for a North American car version, and this will take a lot more work and a lot more investigation because I've never taken a seat apart, so it's going to be quite a learning experience for me. So join me next time as I try to figure out how to install the passenger side in due time. So if you enjoyed this content and learned a thing or two about how to install these factory Audi wingback seats, I would appreciate the like and subscribe.